Hi everyone. This week we are going to do something interesting, and it's called the botanical animal. So what it is you will find an animal that's interesting to you, or maybe it's even your animal that represents you or your totem animal, and you want it to be a good clear shape, and then you are going to fill it with botanical images, flowers and leaves and trees and so on. For this demo, I'm using Bristol paper, vellum surface, and I'm making it fairly large just because you're going to be doing little details inside. So, but what I've done is I've started with a piece of newsprint, and I did the drawing first and then transferred it with graphite transfer paper and a red ballpoint pen. And I've started to actually fill in some of the images or some of the different flowers and so on with a waterproof pen, a Pitt pen, and I've used for the outside, I've used an SB soft brush to get a thicker line, thin and thick, and then for a lot of the little flowers and so on that I'm starting to do, I've used an M or an F, medium or fine. I started with this coyote photo that I had from we were at a nature center and I took a photo, so it was stuffed. So your first job is to find a good reference of an animal. And there's good shapes and bad shapes. So for example, this would not be as good of a shape because you can't really see the details of what the animal is. This would be a better shape because it's a side view. So you want the shape to be recognizable. So this is a good shape. This is a good shape. This would not be a good shape of an animal because you can't really tell what it is. This is not such a good shape. But this is a better shape. So you want the outside shape, the silhouette of the shape, to really be able to tell you what the animal is. So I put some different shapes, some different animals and plants on the Google Classroom. And here were some that I considered. This is our tortoise, or a bird. These are all good. A cow, roadrunner. Could be anything in the animal kingdom. Another bird, flamingo, a woodpecker. Okay, so find yourself a nice animal, and then you'll also need to collect some images of different botanicals, leaves, maybe pictures you've taken yourself, or some you've gotten out of a magazine or off the internet. Leaves, flowers. These were close-ups of wildflowers we did last year when we were hiking at Daly Ranch. Tulips, more close-ups of wildflowers, just cannas, leaves, roses, and so on. Now you don't have to worry about these being a really good shape because, I mean a clear silhouetted shape, because you'll be filling in details. Now I've decided to use mixed media, ink and colored pencil. You could also use watercolor, but I thought with the little details and the tiny stuff, a colored pencil might be the best. I still haven't decided if maybe I would fill in around it, around the flowers and leaves with some watercolor. That would be easy enough to do. And the colored pencil, because it has a little wax in it, it would push it away a little bit if you went over the edge, but I haven't decided that yet. So the first thing I did was a gesture drawing to kind of place it. And I had cut this newsprint exactly the same size as my paper. The first time I did the gesture, I realized that it was a little small. So it's good to not start in with all the details of the drawing and then realized it's not in the right place or it's too small. If you do it on a preliminary drawing like newsprint, then you can move it around. You can see I brought it down a little bit and a little bit over to the left. And I am going to do a border. I haven't decided yet how I am going to do that. So let me just show you really fast, and this is a review for most of you. I'll show you how I would do a gesture drawing. Let's say I wanted to draw it the size of this. What I'm going to do is just kind of go through the middle and do a fast sort of skeleton drawing, or showing the action or the main shapes and getting the proportions right. Not worrying so much about the outline, that's more of a contour, but and never lifting my pencil up off the page. So I'll start up here, and I'm looking at angles, and it's so I'm looking at the angle of the legs, angle. So within a few seconds I have something that represents the whole body. Then when I do the contour drawing, I follow the edge very slowly, and then I start to look at angles and proportions. I look at things like, what's that negative space between it to get that angle? How much body is showing before I get from the front leg to the back leg? So, you know, I don't want it to elongate too much. Where is this line meeting? The line of the back, believe it or not, is meeting right at the ear. So as you do this, you really want to pay attention. And again, just because you might be erasing a lot, it's better to do this probably on another piece of paper. Also, look at how the leg is really not growing out of the bottom, it's growing out of the side. So you want to get those lines in there too, because at some point you're going to be dividing up the body into sections to put in your botanicals. I'm going to say, okay, where is this line starting? It's starting not way up at the body, but it's the front leg, or the leg closest to us is overlapping the one that's farther away. And so on. So that's what I did for this, and I did some drawing and erasing and drawing and erasing. At first I thought maybe I would put a little border where it broke out of the border, and then I decided to do more of a frame. And again, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do yet for that. So at this point, I was taking my SB after I transferred it. And remember, the graphite transfer paper does erase. So there's my SB, and I'm gonna, even after I've transferred it, I always go back and look at that reference again. Even though it's not going to be realistic, I don't want to be too far off from my original photo. So I'm trying to go over my lines or just double check that it's accurate. Okay, and then I take a smaller pen and look at my reference. These are the different plants that I had found photos of to use, tulip and the canna and so on. So I'm going to look at this canna here again, and fill in the details. And again, I've divided it up. I've used a lot of the natural muscles and sort of natural divisions to divide it up into spaces, and then I've added more divisions. So here's the muscle of the leg and the muscle of the leg. There was also a bit of a division on the side of the face, and at first I had it, and then I kind of decided to eliminate that, but I could have it a little bit on there. And the leg, obviously. This I just made up. It's a pine tree. So anything in the plant family, the plant kingdom, and don't forget those veins. If you're doing a leaf or petals of a flower, don't forget the little twists and turns on the flower. So as you can see, this is going to be a little time consuming. I've spent quite a bit of time figuring out what I'm going to do, and then getting the preliminary drawn and transferring it. But the fun part will be kind of coloring it in and using the colored pencils as a kind of a coloring book, and you can do that a little bit at a time. This is supposed to be a sunflower, but it's not the world's best. So once you've got it all inked in, and I haven't finished everything, I've got a bird of paradise and then some other leaves, fall leaves of the persimmon tree and so on. Then you can go in and erase. Let me just. If the M starts to feel too big of a line, then you can switch down to an F or even an S, and the Pitt pens even go down to an XS or SX. That's super fine. So I've got this all colored in, so I'm gonna try and erase as much of the graphite paper lines as I can, just to kind of clean it up before I start penciling it. I haven't done all this, so I won't erase that yet. And then I can take my different pencils, and let's take the sunflower here. And some greens. Dark purple. Now, like I said, I may want to go in and paint around that. Or another thing I could do, if I wanted to, and I may just take the plunge and do this, is to take a brown and go around and outline again to sort of establish the real color of the animal, so I can go around all of my He's actually more of a gray, so let me find a gray. A Wile E. Coyote. So I could highlight around that. This was an actual leaf I have here. It's been flattened out a fall leaf, so I could actually color that in fall colors if I wanted to. Let's take now I'm gonna be getting kind of colorful here because each one of these botanicals and flowers and stuff has different colors, so I have to be careful of the idea of unity and get some repetition in there. So I may end up wanting to go in with an orange background on that, or I'll use some of that same orange in here for the canna leaves. So I repeat colors. And then a red. So most of you guys have used colored pencils before. If you don't want to do colored pencils, if you want to do watercolor or markers, that's perfectly fine. I just decided that I thought it would be easier to use the colored pencils. And it appears to be going sort of fast. The hard part, the part that takes a long time, is the planning of it, the drawing of it. And I'll put on the Google Classroom, I'm going to show you my Pinterest page, or I'm going to have you have a link to my Pinterest page for totem animals. This was an assignment I've done with my high school kids and my middle school kids, where they had an animal, a shape, and then within it they divided it up. It's much more abstract. They put patterns on it, and not so much actual objects. But I thought this was a nice touch, this botanical one of my Facebook friends showed me a chicken that had this, and I will put that image on the Google Classroom so you can see it. Let's do this pine tree here. Oh, that's not piney enough. Let's get a And remember, with colored pencils, you can blend colors and mix more than one color together. That makes it more interesting. This is an iris. This is the maple leaf right here. That's kind of reddish. Let's go ahead and do that. I don't want to go too dark with the colored pencil, or I'll lose the details of the veins and so on that I did. So I want to vary the pressure and have some of it a little heavier, but not so much that I cover up the details within the shape. This is a tulip, so let's find some pink. And a rosy red. Another thought I could do is use that wolf color. This, let's see if I can find my test paper here. I could use this gray, or a combination of gray and brown. I think I had one here. This is sort of a burnt sienna. This maybe is a nice one. Yeah, so I could use that in the background and make these bright colored things pop out more if I go in with a dull background. The other thing is, what am I going to do back in here? Am I going to color in this border somehow? Or am I going to color around it or leave it white? What about this down here? So I have a lot of decisions to make. So anyway, that's the idea. And here's our prickly pear. Those nice red blossoms you see right now on the prickly pears. That'll turn into fruit. It does seem like it wants to have a darker background. So I would seriously consider that, and I haven't decided yet what I would do, but I think that would pull it together and go in with a, maybe not a black, but almost. Let's see, what is this? This is black. Yeah, I'll have to look at my colors and experiment and test them out on another piece of paper. Another thing you can do is, if while you're drawing the actual flowers and so on, you can take a piece of tracing paper and draw them on here and see if you like it. See what, and or draw a bunch of little flowers and then move them around and see where they're going to fit, and stick a little piece, doesn't have to be a big one, but hold on to it and stick a little piece of graphite paper in there and transfer it on. So you've pre-drawn them onto this tracing paper. Okay, there's my beautiful flower, so I could say, where does that fit? How do I want it to fit? So on. I think that's all I was going to show you, but have fun with this, and I still have a lot of decisions to make, but enjoy.